Wow, that's a good cup of coffee. Nice, Zinni. Very nice.
Well, I may not be able to taste it, but I can brew it at my house. Coffee Peddlers have a special edition Patriot Light Roast where they teamed up with PJ Hope. Every time you buy a bag of this coffee, proceeds go to the foundation to help disabled veterans learn the game of golf.
And it tastes good too.
Welcome to the TBD Talk Show. I'm your host, Robert Zinni. Today, I'm sitting down with former NFL quarterback Dave Kreig, who played 19 years in the NFL and also led 3 different teams to the playoffs. Dave, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Robert. Thanks for coming down here from Prescott to come talk to me a little bit.
No problem. The weather's great, and I'm really loving your backyard. The pool is like a waterfall. I see some deer that we can shoot later.
Those are fake deer, but yes.
Okay. So today, we are talking about passion because you have this incredible storyline of coming from a small college and then you were undrafted to go to the Seahawks. So I want to know, where did your passion start wanting to play football?
Well, that's a good question. I think I learned or wanted to play football by watching the Green Bay Packers back in the 60s. Bart Starr. It was a black and white TV. Your dad would tell you to go up and turn Channel 7 on. That's WSAU. In Wausau, that's our CBS affiliate, and we'd watch the Green Bay Packers. I was watching a game, and I just saw it a different way. My dad be yelling like everybody else, yelling at the quarterback, "Hey, Star, why didn't you do this?" And Taylor, "Why did you fumble?" And and I was seeing it like, wow, how are they getting the ball down the field? And that's where I started it. And then I'd pretend in my front yard with my brothers, it's 4th and 1, jumping over onto the couch, playing in the hallway, trying to get a first down, and 2 guys just beating the heck out of each other. And but then I started playing quarterback, and that was a whole different thing. I could tell people what to do. They would actually listen to me. So.
Okay, so you were a quarterback. How did you learn to throw a football?
The throwing kind of came naturally. I always, whenever I played sports when I was little, I played football, basketball, baseball. I'd throw in baseball. Basketball was about shooting, but I could shoot. I was pretty accurate, I thought. And then football, I just threw. But then about my freshman year, the principal, like you can relate to, the principal from the school came down, and he'd played at Northern Michigan, and he said, when I used to play, he goes, I would take a football and throw it straight up in the air, not very far, and that would teach you to pronate and throw a decent spiral. Now, I didn't do that all the time. Like before every game, I'm not throwing it up in the air. But that's where I learned how to throw. And then after that, just a matter of muscle memory. Kind of like the golf swing. I have a lot better muscle memory in throwing a football than I do in the golf swing.
So, Dave, you have a humble beginning from going to Milton College, which doesn't exist, to being undrafted to Seattle. So, how did that feel, knowing that you were going from a small school to the NFL?
I think I learned quickly that they didn't really care where you came from. We had number 1 draft choice at the time was Jacob Green from Texas A&M. He was probably going to make the team. My buddy Sam Merriman always tells me, he goes, the thing about draft choices is they have to prove they can't play, whereas somebody else that didn't get drafted or in the lower rounds has to prove that they can play and do it rather quickly. So I think the process of everything, just getting there, I'm at Eastern Washington University. I'm not even in Seattle. I don't even know where Eastern Washington, it's in Cheney, Washington, I know that now. But we're playing in this beautiful field, but it's all wheat fields around us. And every day was a process. Constantly I was learning, so caught up in just trying to be the best I can do and do better than I did yesterday and try to do better, that's all I was thinking about was the process. So I didn't get all caught up in it. But as it got closer to the end, they put me in a dorm at Seattle University the last week because I didn't have a place to stay. They didn't want to put me in a nice hotel, I guess. I stayed at a dorm for the last week, and then I made the cut. I walked by the proverbial Turk, the guy that says, you need to go see the coach. I walked by him. I said, are you sure you don't have nothing to say to me? I would have said it, he said, and I kept walking. So that means I made the team, and that was pretty cool. But then I had to find a place to stay. So a guy named Mike Casey, who went to Milton College in 1965, sent me a letter while I was at Eastern Washington. I'm like, who's Mike Casey? And he said something like, hey, if things don't work out at with the Seahawks, I can help get you a job in real estate. I thought it was nice of him. And then I called this guy, said, I need a place to stay. So I ended up staying with 3 or 4 other guys in this townhouse apartment in downtown Seattle, across the lake from where the place was. So my rookie year was, where am I going to stay? What am I going to drive? I didn't even have a car. I had to borrow their cars. So making it to the NFL was nice. The other stuff was hard.
As a kid, you dreamt about going to the NFL. Was there a moment where everything clicked, where your dream came true and you were able to live out that dream?
Probably after my first year, because up until then, I didn't know anything about how the NFL worked. I had no clue, but I always dreamed I wanted to play in the NFL. I had no idea what that would be. But when it kind of clicked was after my first year. In fact, during my first year, I must have been doing so bad as far as picking it up real quickly. I had raw ability. Jerry Rome saw that, the quarterback coach. But he needed to see that I could handle different situations, audibling, what's going to happen when we put a guy in motion. I didn't know that. There was a game we played on Thanksgiving Day against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. We got beat 57-6. Usually, you're like, the game's out of hand. They put the backup quarterback in the third quarter. It got so bad, we kept getting beat worse. I thought, well, I'm going to go in a game. They put the starting quarterback back in the fourth quarter of my rookie year. I thought, that's it, I'm done. And later, Jerry came to me and said, hey, if I would have put you in there, it would have ruined all your confidence. Takes you to, after my rookie year, I come back early. They have a quarterback school. It started in March, April. It was 2 months. I would go there and take these tests. And I'd get home, or take tests, hand it in to them. Amongst all the other guys, they would get 98s, 96, sometimes 100, and they'd complain about getting a 98. I would have so much red ink on my sheet, I couldn't even tell what was my answer or his answer. And so I had to keep studying, and finally, I got it. So when I showed up at minicamp and training camp, everything went better. It's like I said before about the golf swing and muscle memory. My mind and everything could see what was happening. So then physically, all I had to do was do it, which made it a lot easier. And I guess that's what they call slowing the game down.
Okay. So you make a great point about you have to have confidence to play at a high level in the NFL. What type of mindset had you have to be in to compete with the fellow quarterbacks on the team, but then also some stingy defenses?
Well, the competing against your quarterbacks is a big thing. And I was fortunate to have a guy named Gil Gilbert. He was my backup quarterback in Seattle. It was probably the mid-'80s, but he made me compete all the time. And I was always afraid if I didn't do as good as I could, they were going to put Gale in. So that made me want to keep my job. But then you take it a step further. Well, I don't want to just be a good quarterback on the Seattle Seahawks. I want to be a good quarterback in the NFL. And now you got guys like John Elway, who just got drafted in '84, Marino, Kelly, Dan Fouts is in our division. So now I had to pick up my game and now even try to get better. And I don't know what motivated me there other than the fact that in order for me to be, or us to be good, I have to be even better.
What was it like going against some of these stingy defenses where maybe you got your ass kicked a lot? So how would you bounce back from having a terrible game to having a great game?
You make me think of two teams.
Okay.
You make me think of two teams, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland, Los Angeles Raiders, whatever you want to call them. When I first started playing, and it was against the Raiders, the Chiefs were physical, but they were also very smart. Duron Cherry, he should be in the Hall of Fame because of me, and John Elway. We have together thrown him more interceptions than the rest of the league. They had a great defense. Marty Schottenheimer, God rest his soul, he just passed away a couple days ago. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to play for him. He had a great, smart defense, but the Raiders, their job, the intimidation. Just like Al Davis used to tell his defensive guys, the quarterback must and has to go down within the first 2 series. You know, whether he threw a pass or not, go get him. And their job was intimidation. So I remember there was a game, might have been my 3rd or 4th year, when I first played the Raiders, I'm like, holy cripes, I'm just doing my job. And then I remember there was a pass, it was an in route, and I dropped back and I see, it might have been Large, it might have been anybody, but I saw they're throwing the in route, but I see this guy coming at me. I don't know who he was just white and silver and huge, and I threw it, and he just tackled me, knocked me into the ground, and I was able to get up, and I thought, well, that's not so bad. They're not so intimidating. And so that That's another mental hurdle, right? Is the intimidation, the size, the speed. Again, coming from Milton College, NAIA Division III, one division above high school, to go to the NFL, the speed, the tenacity, the knowledge of what it takes to win is so amplified. And for me to have to catch up real quick, it took a while, but playing against the Raiders and the Chiefs, really, really good defenses, not to mention Lawrence Taylor and guys like that. But I wasn't in NFC East, thank goodness. But in our division, playing against those guys toughened you up.
Okay. And so when you're taking those hits and, like you said, toughens it up, does it kind of like make the game a little bit easier for you where you can go out and make that play, get hit, scramble a little bit?
I don't know if it makes it easier, but it gives you the confidence that you can do it. I don't think there's anything easy about in the NFL. I was always taught the center exchange is the most important. So that was always important. Even a handoff, you have to concentrate on technique all the time. Okay. I mean, you can get away with sloppiness, but it'll catch up to you in the long run. Everything has to be done precisely. I mean, running backs can run different places, but there are certain fundamentals and techniques that have to be done. And in that process, that can help take away the pressure of the moment or whatever's happening, because I got to do this, do that, and then everything else will take care of itself. Okay. You learn that after a while.
Right. What was the best thing about just having the opportunity to play in the NFL?
Wow. I think my rookie year, when I called my dad and told him I made it, I said, "Guess what, Dad?" He goes, "What?" I said, "I got the best seats, and they gave me a uniform. I get to stand on the sideline." He goes, "You made it, huh?" He goes, "Congratulations." So for a dad that's a state patrolman in Wisconsin, hardly making 25, 30,000, grew up on a dairy farm where I grew up, learning how to bale hay, shovel manure, and all that kind of stuff. I can imagine my son's in the NFL. Like all my buddies in high school back there and their dads, we all know each other. Myron Craig, Dave made it. I can't even imagine what they were all saying.
It's the small things in life that really make it.
Oh man, to play in the NFL. I mean, this is about PGA Hope. There's veterans from the wars that come back, defending our country, come back, and they've lost limbs, and I've got to visit them doing USO tours. So I can only imagine, and it makes me feel even more good about this whole thing, is that other people had opportunities to maybe do this or want to, and they couldn't do it, especially because of physical handicaps. So I'm very grateful, very blessed, and to do something you dreamed of doing since you were 5 and actually have it come to fruition, and then do it for 19 years.
Exactly.
I mean, and what people don't get is 19 years of playing football is one thing. Going to 19 training camps, 2-a-days, even when you're 38 and 39 at Tennessee State University. That's where I ended up with the Titans, with Jeff Fisher was our coach. Steve McNair was the starting quarterback, Eddie George, Bruce Matthews, Mike Munchak, 2 Hall of Fame linemen. How can you, and Mark Stepnoski, and they had 2 or 3, they had a great offensive line. But the two-a-days, and I'm like, I really have to love this, don't I? To do this every day. And as a quarterback, you don't get hit. But it's 2-a-days back in the old days were hard.
Before we get into some of your passions off the field, what was like your crowning achievement in the NFL? Because you are one of few people to take 3 teams to a playoff game, win multiple playoff games. What would be the takeaway from the NFL?
Whew. Wow, there's so many, but I'll just go from a team perspective for sure. When we beat the Miami Dolphins as the Seattle Seahawks, we were 17-point underdogs. Dan Marino was a rookie quarterback, and he was, supposed to take him to the Super Bowl, and we beat him. And that was, because it was based on our special teams, our defense, and some of our offense, and it was a team win. I remember that. We played the Kansas City Chiefs one game. There was 4 seconds left. We were on the 25-yard line. We throw a pass. It's a touchdown. So that was a dream thing. But in the long run, for me, was just getting to play in the NFL and to be in the locker room with these icons, guys I used to watch. Bob Greasy, I'm playing against him. Dan Fouts, like I said. Just the players, to see all that was a big, for a kid, I still feel like I lived a dream, right? Yeah. Now I'm talking about it, so it must have been real, I guess. And no matter whatever happened, I think it was just the coolest thing that a kid from central Wisconsin that went to Milton College made it in NFL. And then I got to meet all these cool people like John Gumby and, just so many. Now it's not a big deal, but at the time I'm like, wow, I got to talk to that guy and I got to talk to that guy. And the owners of teams, Nordstrom's, who started off with Nordstrom, Elmer and Kitty Nordstrom, they were the owners of the Seahawks. I didn't even know what Nordstrom's was then. I'd never been to a Nordstrom's. And then Lamar Hunt, his family in Kansas City, right? You go to Kansas City and play there, that is an event for those people. You're in Kansas City, Missouri, there's no NFL teams around there. That's a big deal to them. And then I went to Detroit, playing there with Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, great offensive line. But Barry Sanders is one of the best football players I have ever played with. Marcus Allen, I got to play with him in Kansas City. Yeah. Joe Montana was my roommate. You go tell people that Joe Montana and I were roommates for a year. I'm sure a lot of other quarterbacks can say that, but not a kid that came from Roswell, Wisconsin, not drafted, Right. And I can still call him and talk to him. I think that's pretty neat.
We were talking about some of your passions. We definitely had to talk about your football career, but I'm interested, what other passions are you currently pursuing, or what other passions do you have in life?
As you get older, you wish you had more passions or more things you could be passionate about. Like I love to go deer hunting and fishing with my boys and my daughter and stuff. But it's hard to go, okay, I'm going to go hang out with you 25, 30-year-old kids and we're going to all do the same thing. But the passion is just hanging around with my family, going deer hunting, sitting up in a tree. It's a very solitude thing, and you constantly have time to dream. And if you do actually see the deer, now you got to pull back your bow and go through the process. Okay, I got everything right, and you shoot it. But a lot of times you go out there, you don't get a deer. I haven't shot one in 6 years now because I want it to be something I'll put on my wall. But at the same time, what makes you go out there and just sit in a tree, right? So everybody has their own peculiarities, however you say that. But whatever you like to do, you just go out and do it. So, and the other passion I like, and it always seems to give me fulfillment, is like I used to do stuff for Special Olympics and visit kids in hospitals, or seeing disabled veterans and talk to them. And whenever I go to help somebody else out, it never fails that I end up feeling better, right? Mm-hmm. You go visit a kid in a cancer ward. That was something I got to do that I never got to do in Wisconsin. Hey, can you come down on your day off and go see these kids in the hospital? I'm not even prepared for this. And it brought me to tears. I didn't even have kids at that time. And you see these little kids in the hospital and their parents and all the strife and struggles they're going through. And it's a big deal to them. So I learned, wow, if I can just give a little bit of hope and, hey, I'm here just to support you, it comes back to you. So that would be a good advice to anybody, is go out and help somebody else. And
yeah, I just want to say thank you for that charity work, because sitting on this side, I had childhood cancer, and I was very lucky to have some Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres come. And I know from a previous conversation we had, just that 30-minute interaction you have with those kids means a lot.
It does. And the funny thing is, you told me about the guy that came, and then I asked my boys, they're big hockey players, they both played hockey. What was his name?
Rob Ray,
right?
Enforcer for the Buffalo Sabres, one of the best of all time.
Yes. And here's this big fighter thug guy coming into a hospital, talking to kids. And that's what people don't see a lot. They see all the bad side of sports. But these guys that are playing are good. They're just regular guys that happen to have the ability to do something and do it consistently. And it's only a short period of time. Mm-hmm. But these guys, these people that get to play in the NFL, the guys that coach them also, because they have to have a passion to go in there and not be able to play, to tell these guys what to do, hope they do it. And if they lose, everybody's crushed. And then if you win, everybody's happy, and then you go do it again the next week. But to have a guy like Rob Ray do that, I thought that was so cool. I texted my boys, Rob Ray, and man, he was the greatest. He's this and that. And he visited you in the hospital, man. Mm-hmm. That makes me feel good. That when you don't have certain things like that happen in your life and you get to see it with other people, it gives you appreciation for what God put us down here for.
Exactly. And, having somebody that is strong, and especially an enforcer for the NHL, it just gave you that motivation to fight. Even though you're in the hospital bed fighting cancer, it's that hope, it's that perseverance, it's that just fight that you're never going to give up. And that's probably the few lessons that I took from the interactions of sports athletes visiting me.
This is going to sound funny. I don't know how cancer goes to a dairy farm, but that's where I kind of learned how not to ever give up and all that, because I watched my dad and his two brothers, and then his dad and mom who lived on the farm, and my grandma had to make food for all these guys. She had to help fix things, but she had to, she took care of the inside of the house. And my grandpa had to be up every morning at 5, get those cows in there, milk them every morning at 5:30, clean the gutters, clean the manure, and do all that. So that hard work ethic, I'm like, why do they just do it every day? They do it every day. They had to do it, and then after a while, it just becomes part of your process. And hard work is not a bad thing to have as an addiction.
Just keeping with the theme of the dream, do you have any advice for any of our viewers watching there about what it takes to fulfill that dream? Because I mean, part of me right now says a dream for me is sitting down with a former NFL quarterback, because that's a dream for me. So any advice for people who are dreaming?
Well, my first advice to you would be you need to dream bigger than just sitting here talking to me. You should talk to a current quarterback or something like that. So keep your dreams going all the time. Don't ever be satisfied. It's fine to have dreams, but now once you get to your goals, what can I do to get better? And you always got to work on your weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I learned all through sports is, I'm good right-handed dribbler in basketball, but if I really want to be good, I got to learn to dribble left-handed, dribbling between your legs, doing all that. All this, whatever sport it is, baseball, you got to shuffle your feet. You can't get your feet crossed, you never catch a ground ball, or you won't do it consistently. Football, I had this habit, Jerry Rome taught me, I would take the snap, and my first step would be my left foot. It's called a false step, right? It'd be like this. And he taught me, I had to learn to pivot out of the thing. So now you're sitting up there looking at all these guys, Mike Webster from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mel Blount. I'm looking across, and now I got to go, oh yeah, my foot, I can't false step, So that stuff keeps you from having all the pressure of going against a guy with no teeth that's about to take your head off, So I don't know what the advice is for people as far as being able to fulfill your dream. I think the process of trying to get to your dream is fulfilling your dream. Mm. And if you ever reach that summit, then maybe you can go a little bit higher. But I think the process, you wouldn't have a dream if you just had the end result. To have a dream, you have to have stuff go on. And that's the process, I think. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a real good golfer, but I can imagine is you just have to kind of visualize. I think that's something I learned at a young age was I would pretend like I was the Green Bay Packers, right? But that's a form of visualization. And then it became a big term in the 80s or something, I'm like, what do you mean? Go over each play before, doesn't everybody do that? I thought, I'm like, I want to see myself hitting the shot or completing this pass. And so visualization, seeing yourself do something can help. And then if you can actually do it, that's even better.
Dave, thank you for joining us on the TBD Talk Show to talk about your passions, perseverance, motivation. But I wanted to come back to one of our key themes with dreams, and it's been my dream to play catch with a former NFL quarterback. So could you play catch with me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll even throw one back to you, Robert.
Ah! This is Robert Zinni from the TBD Talk Show doing quick hits with Dave Kreig. I'm going to throw a pass, ask him a question, he's going to throw it back to me. Let's get it! Dream car.
Cadillac ATS-V.
Okay. Favorite play to run.
60 cross firm, post pattern Largent.
Okay. Who is your favorite running back?
Barry Sanders, Kurt Warner, Marcus Allen.
Hunting or fishing?
Both.
Okay. Rock climbing or running?
Running. And looking at rocks.
Italian food or Chinese food?
Italian food.
Okay. Favorite band?
Styx.
Best fan base?
Seattle, Kansas City.
Favorite vacation spot?
Wisconsin.
Who was your hero growing up?
Bart Starr, Joe Namath, Roger Staubach.
One thing about John Gumby.
He's funny. He's nice.
Buffalo or Pittsburgh?
Ooh, Buffalo.
You know it. Go Bills.
I forgot.
All right. Favorite brand of coffee?
Coffee peddlers. Well, look at this. Coffee peddlers promoting PGA Hope.